I am Dr. Sharlene Allen-Milton. I'm a professor here at Morgan State University. And I just want to say thank you to Professor Johnson, well, Dr. Johnson, and the commissioners, Janice Green, for inviting me to be a part of this great symposium. Thank you so much to those who are online. Hello, and thank you all for choosing to look at this presentation. Today we're going to talk about honoring the whole you, work-life management strategies. And so often women and people, women, men, but particularly Black women, we struggle with the superwoman syndrome. We struggle with the superwoman syndrome. And as a result of struggling with the superwoman syndrome, we think that we can do everything, right? We think that we can do everything. And we struggle with not taking care of ourselves, right? Yes. We struggle with not, come on in if you're coming in. We struggle with not taking care of ourselves. We are willing to take care of so many people, right? But we're not willing, we put ourselves on the back burner. And my hope is today that you all take away some things that, you know what, it's okay to put me first, because what? Self-care is not selfish, okay? And so let's find out who's in the room today. Who's in the room today? I see the commissioner here. Thank you so much for joining us. Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm Stephanie Lee. I am a member of Sharlene United Methodist Church. We own the Mount Auburn Cemetery, and also trying to get some money for the restoration of the cemetery. But we figured this was a good opportunity for us to meet and greet and do some networking.
Yes.
As for me, having been a caregiver for over 15 years.
Yes.
Until my brother passed.
Yes.
Year, this is a good time for me to begin to reflect and begin to really think about me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Sharp Street Memorial Church is a historic African American church and has such a legacy, and actually has such a wonderful legacy as it relates to Morgan State University,
exactly.
right?
Yes, because Morgan got its beginnings in the fellowship hall.
Yes, Morgan got its beginnings.
When we had the big celebration for the anniversary, we had a big service.
Yes. What a historic, you know, what does the slogan go? We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, exactly. Right? Exactly. So when you think about those of us who have gone before us, they were in Sharp Street. I'm from New York, so that
it's okay.
The AR is a R, AW. Right. So Sharp Street
right.
Memorial Church, to come to this beautiful campus today, and the church is still alive and still thriving. I mean, it's an amazing thing.
My name is Sharlene. I am history culture.
Yes.
I am also helping out with the symposium, and I am always interested in self-care.
Yes.
Because the many things that you said right in the very beginning, as women, as nurturers,
Yes.
we will take care of anybody and everybody else and not ourselves.
Yes.
And the fact that I think with what happened with COVID for me, it provided an opportunity to slow down. And because I live alone and and learn all about myself. The
Yes.
things that I liked about myself and the things that I need to work on. It gave me that opportunity and a freedom to do that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I already told you my name. I'm from the Bronx. Like I already said, I clarify myself as a Caribbean American woman. My parents are from the Caribbean, Jamaica and St. Kitts. I was born in the Bronx. I am a Morgan alum. And I'm also a social worker by trade. And specifically, I'm a clinical social worker. I went to Smith College for my master's in clinical social work, and then I worked for about 18 years in the field, doing all sorts of therapy, outpatient mental health, working with schools, working with a treatment foster care, and then I decided to go back to school where I graduated from George Washington University in 2014 with a education doctorate in human and organizational learning. But what got me to this topic here, what got me to this topic was, imagine this, 2016, I am walking down the hallway of Morgan State University. I just got accepted as a full-time faculty. My daughter, one and only, I was 42, my one and only daughter is 7 months. God bless me at 42 to have a daughter. And at the end of the year, I was getting married. Okay? And so I'm walking down the hallway, and I'm in my mind, I'm thinking about the onboarding. I'm thinking about my classes that I have to prepare for. I'm thinking about the fact that I have a 7-month-old at home. I'm thinking about all of the things that has to be done. And you know what I said to myself? I said, our parents, my mom, my grandmother, they never taught me. They never had the conversation about how to manage work in life. When you think about it, you just did it. Not only that, but when you think about it, you never knew what was going on with mom, grandma. They just nurtured and they provided, right? So is that a good thing? Is them nurturing and providing, of course, is a good thing, but the fact that they didn't pass on, this is how you do this. Because Black women have always worked and had a family. Okay? Prior to slavery, we always worked and had a family. We worked the land. We were we worked the land. We worked the land. And so we always worked and had a family. That's just who we are. And so that was one of the things. I made it my mission to transition from Okay. Can I keep going? I made it my mission, right, to then to study, to research about work-life balance, what it is, what it isn't. Because I thought at that time, at 42 years old, with a 7-month-old, I felt like I literally grew a third arm. And I didn't know how to use it. The only thing I knew how to do was work. And I was pretty good at that, right? But to do all of these things, my role and my identity were about to expand and change. I was no longer just a single woman. Thank you. I'm now faculty, I'm now mother, faculty, soon to be a wife. All at one time. So we're going to be introduced to several types of self-care and understand its overall importance to overall well-being. To understand the power of affirmations in combating negative thinking. That's what we're going to do today. We're dispelling this superwoman myth that we got to do and be to everyone, because it is a myth.
All things to all people at the same time.
Right? So I also want to set down the intellectual, conceptual framework for what grounds this presentation and what grounds my work. Because I've been to Canada, I've been to several social work conferences. I've gone to several women's engagements at colleges to talk about this, because what is not talked about is what is lacking in the work-life balance discussion is us, women of color. And in order for sustainability, work-life balance sustainability, there has to be a discussion that has our narratives in the mix. So we're going to talk about, we're using a womanist lens for this. And when we talk about a womanist lens, we're talking about a different type of knowing other than a scientific way of knowing. It's based on wisdom and knowledge in the sense of not only scientific, but knowledge, intangible knowledge, right? Because if the Holy Spirit tells you something, that's knowledge to us, because we have always, from an Afrocentric perspective, we have always integrated the Spirit into our everyday life, just like how we brush our teeth. Yes? And so wisdom and knowledge, they're two types of knowing. Okay? And it highlights and normalizes the character essence of a woman as she shows up in the world. And I didn't know, before I came here, I didn't know about a womanist lens, because we are so used to a patriarchal perspective on our own selves that it wasn't until I got here that I began to look at theoretical perspectives that represented who I am, that I could adopt and feel like I am the whole me whenever I walk into a room. And so Alice Walker is the founder of the Womanist Lens, but then there are other people who adopted a womanist perspective when we think about it, and Emily Towns is one within the Christian sector who does work from a womanist lens, who is who discusses theology from a womanist perspective. But when you think about the work of Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, they were womanists. They were, and some would say that they were black feminists. Why? Because Sojourner Truth, ain't I a woman? And even though I'm doing this work for the people, I'm still a woman. I got kids, I got a husband. Harriet Tubman has kids, husband, but they are doing the work. You see what I'm saying? So it's not the perspective of a white feminist perspective that is a middle class perspective, that there's this expectation that we are housewives doing charity, because that has never been us. Oh, right. And there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. I'm not saying that.
No, I get your point.
Yes.
I was thinking about what you were saying, and now I'm on the flip side.
Yes.
But I still had everything else.
But you were still working.
I still yes. So once they were older and I took a job, then I was a mother who worked.
Yes.
I never saw myself as a
Yes.
working mother.
That's right. Identity matters, right? And so, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say as far as the perspective, because when we work at home, we are still working. Yes. And so other womanist key themes is that self-definition and self-valuation challenge stereotypes, resist oppression, and strengthen collectivity and relationships. So we define who we are. Society doesn't get to define us. I define who I am. I define myself as a Caribbean American, right? And we value each other, right? And who we say we are, that's who we are. The other thing is that we believe in collectivity, community, and relationships. That's essential to who we are. We believe in naming and claiming culture. We acknowledge the interlocking multiple oppressions that impact women of color. So when I come into the room, I can't leave 1/3 of myself outside the room. And that is what society, from a male-dominated perspective, has taught us. That we leave the most dominant, for some, Dr. Wilson talked about she is a mom who works, yes? But coming into a male-dominated society, a patriarchal society, she's a woman who's working. That mom stuff, you gotta leave it outside the door. Not so with a womanist perspective. A womanist perspective undergirds, and since we have people of faith here, when we look at the apostolic women in the Bible, when we look at I'll get into that, but we bring, from this perspective, we are able to bring our whole selves into a room, and we're able to stand on who we are. And so we value religious beliefs. We value social emotional supports. We value social supports, community, family, and work. Dr. Littlefield talked about the environmental niche that we have. Black women, as a result of slavery, have adapted, and we've become workers outside of the home, the dual role of nurturer and provider, as well as we value economic independence. Anybody want to say anything about that? I just see. I mean, if you all online can see these women in here, they're like, that's right. Eyebrows are up in the sky, like, yes. So here's a question that I would like for you all, and for those who are online, feel free to take notes, because this is an opportunity for you to look at you and to look at some of the things that may need to shift or be edited, okay? So what are the multiple spaces and identities that you operate in that need attention? Tell the truth, shame the devil, as they say.
Well, as she said, when COVID started, and we were all kind of stuck in our homes, and I too live alone, I started walking.
Mm-hmm.
And I started walking partly because I was tired of being in the house, and what had happened was I had cleaned my house from top to bottom, and there was nothing else left to do.
Yes.
There was nothing else for me to throw away. We had a big community clean out, and they had bought this, one of those rollouts from the city. So, you know, I had gotten rid of stuff that I should have gotten rid of years and years ago. But, you know, we were, I mean, the rollout had never been that loaded because, I mean, the entire community was just like, because we were all like,
Purging.
I mean, I got rid of a television, you know, big TVs. Who has big TVs anymore? It was stuck in the back room someplace. So who got rid of all that stuff? So I started walking. And the walk started around the block, twice around the block. Well, I'm now up to 3 miles.
All right.
And it was my time to commune, to work on myself, something that I had not done for years.
Okay.
My mom died in 07.
Sorry about that.
And I became a caregiver for my aunt and my brother. My aunt died at 15 and my brother just died at 21. Well, you know, I had not, during that time, I had neglected health-related issues, my teeth, I mean, everything, you know. If they had an appointment, if I had a dental appointment and their appointment came up, I canceled my dental appointment. Well, you know how difficult it is when you cancel an appointment, you gotta, you know, by the time you get there, so, you know, I ended up having extractions. It probably would not have been extractions if I had had the time to, if I had taken the time to take care of myself. So, for me, that time gave me an opportunity to start working on me.
Yes.
So, although I haven't lost a pound, but my A1C is down.
Come on now.
My high blood pressure is much better.
Awesome.
And I've lost inches.
Awesome. 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 Congratulations.
So
you were the place you needed to give attention to yourself. Someone else? Tell me your name again. Cheryl.
Yeah.
And just want to let you all know, please vote. Black voters matter. Cheryl is representing, okay? And I just want to give a shout out to the D9s that are in the place. First, I'm going to shout out Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I see the women of Delta Sigma Theta in the house. So just wanted to do just a quick shout out. But what are the multiple spaces that and identities that you operate in that need attention? Stephanie talked about the fact that she was a caregiver to multiple people.
And up until 2011, I was working.
And she was working being a caregiver.
I was like, you know, doing the work.
Right after,
And you know, sometimes.
Wasn't stopping.
Was you know, in between, I had doctor's appointments and I would come back into the office and sometimes I would work until 9 o'clock at night to get it done. Because even though I took the leave, it was good.
Yes, ma'am.
So for me, I'm in Retirementville, which is great.
Oh, okay,
so
congrats.
being in Retirementville helped me to identify where some of my stresses were coming from, and it was work related.
Okay.
And I worked for 32 years as an advocate, public school employee advocate.
Okay.
And so because I'm single and no children, so my family, it was interesting, my family were not my members that I serviced every day, it was my colleagues who I worked with or socialized with. And it did become very stressing because I was single, what I would do when I knew others had family and we had meetings or we had something, I would volunteer, I would offer to, you know, take that one shift that nobody else could do, or to take that one task that because folks had other obligations like going to the kids' graduation or something, that I volunteered to do. I said, well, you know what, I have the time, so I'll do it so that you don't get hassled because nobody's doing it and stuff. And I did not realize until after I retired just how much I was doing.
Yes.
For my colleagues
Yes.
and my work partners and things, and what little, I realized what little I was doing for myself when I started taking Wednesdays, quarterly on Wednesdays, for like the past 5 years. I would go to New York and spend the day, see a Broadway play because they have matinees, enjoy myself and come back. That was my
Wow,
mistake, and
beautiful.
That was my me moment. That was my take care of self moment.
Yes.
And in fact, I did that this week.
Awesome, awesome. That is awesome. Wow, that's awesome.
I I'm in a different place now.
Yes.
I dealt with some of this some years ago. I was going through divorce, and I flipped the script, and I became me. And so now I am first. I've learned how to put myself first. I am now, my mom is beginning to go through dementia. And even with that, I put me first. And I guess my struggle is, once I realized who I was, and I embraced who I was, because it was a struggle for me, because, you know, I'm an introvert, and, you know, I've been called into ministry, I'm in a leadership role, and I have to talk to people.
Yes.
And that was very difficult for me. And so I had to learn how to engage with people beyond where, you know, where I was comfortable.
Right.
But now, part of my struggle is just being able to say, it's okay to be selfish.
Okay.
It's okay for me to not be bothered today.
Yeah.
You know, with work. I was that person. You know, I take off, and then, you know, I'm still doing work because I feel bad because, you know, I took off. But now it's like, okay, I'm off, and I'm just gonna be off. I turn my telephone off, and I'm not gonna deal with that, and I'm gonna be okay with not doing it. You know, I'm okay with me, but how do I still show up as this person who is a minister, a community person, you know, a black woman who's proud of being a black woman, in all spaces.
All spaces.
And that was my struggle, and I'm telling you, I just learned how to do that. So
Right.
I am now, wherever I am, I'm like, before someone would well, what do you want me to call you? And I would go, oh, just Tamara, just Tamara. But then, you know, someone will walk in the room and say, oh, that's Reverend Wilson. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me he was a preacher? You know, then I'm like, well, you know. But now it's like, well.
Because that's not all who I am.
Right. So now I'm this person. I'm not taking off this hat. I'm just
That's
her.
right. You're not like, you're not wearing 7 hats, walking around like, you know, invisibly like this and be like, hey, I'm this person today. Oh, wait. You know, and so who you are is who you are. I don't have to be called Dr. Sharlene. It is a practice for those at Morgan State University, because historically, because of the historical nature, and it is a huge accomplishment.
Respect.
And it's out of respect, and I get that. In our huge, and I get that, but you don't make me or break me if I'm not called Dr. Sharlene. You know what I mean? But let's talk about work-life balance, because one of the things about this, when we get together, we can talk, because we don't get to talk about ourselves, right? And so we gotta keep it going. I need a timekeeper, because we're supposed to be out of here, and I gotta go and get some. I gotta do other stuff after this. But what is it and what is it not?
Having been retired for 11 years, I'm not sure what my work-life balance was.
Okay.
You know, because it was just, you know, you had to get it all done. So you got it done the best way you could with whatever time frame you had to work with, even if it meant you were working at home.
Okay, and so you see Stephanie going like this, right? Going like this, trying to get it done. Okay, go ahead.
What I saw with that, because the way I look at balance, it's just like the scales of justice. When you have an injustice, and you have a scale like this because there's an injustice, it doesn't go like this. It goes like this. It goes like this. Until there is like a steady. So there are times when we have to do more. If I want to take care of myself in my work environment, and it's been like the work has really been the heavy, I do more of my person to the point where someone might feel neglecting my work, but it's like I'm trying to establish a balance, and you don't just come to a balance like, oh, okay, we're here. You gotta kind of give a little on this side in order to get there, in order to bring it there.
Keep Lady Justice. Keep Lady Justice in mind, okay? So, work-life balance is a perception of efficacy and satisfaction in work and family roles that are in alignment with life values. Work and life. So, based on that definition, do we see balance anywhere? Okay.
You said perception.
Perception. It's a perception. It has nothing to do with balance.
Right.
So let's go back to Lady Justice. And let's go back. I thank God for giving me this insight. When we look at Lady Justice, we see the balance scales. And interestingly enough, when we think about balance, we're always thinking about scales, particularly this one. And we're always thinking about it being like this, equal. But we have Lady Justice. There's only 3 of us in here. I'm just so hyped.
That's all right.
It was hard for me to sit
We have Lady Justice in our mind for whatever reason whenever we think about balance.
Mm-hmm.
But I was about to say, but check this out. But I would like to submit that Lady Justice's job is to be impartial.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Her job is to be impartial. Her job is to be blind and impartial, and also be a warrior for justice issues. When we think about impartiality, and when we think about the balancing of scales, if it's equal, that means at whatever weight it is, it becomes equal. That's neutrality. What we think about as balance is really being neutral. Work-life balance cannot be accomplished. That's what Stephanie was trying to go like this, like this, like this, like this. It cannot be accomplished. We have to manage. We have to manage. Because one day you're going to give 20%, another day you're going to give 40 to something else, right? And then another place you're going to give 40. That is all of you. That's 100. And then on the next week it's going to change, okay? But when it changes, try not to. You can't give. It's important. You can do whatever you want. It's important. Try not to give yourself 10%. That you be the 10%. Try to give yourself more than 10%. Okay? If it's 10%, if that's all you have, in between work breaks, you go into the bathroom and you breathe for 3 minutes, breathe in and out, breathing out for 3 minutes. If that's all you can do, then that's what you can do. But try to do more than that. All right? You cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yes,
Okay?
absolutely.
Work and life are not in competition. They rely on each other.
Yes.
What does that mean? And I'll go into it. One of the things that I talk about is priorities and boundaries, yes? And so whatever you say, your top 5 are, and however 1 is this, 2 is this, 3 is this, 4 is this, and 5 is this. Whatever's 1 stays 1. Whatever's 2 stays 2. And blah. So, for me, it's God, myself, my family. It's work. No, it's church and then work. When God, myself, family, work, church, work, there. But you understand what I'm saying. But these 3 right here, work is down on number 5. Yes? So when my husband or my daughter come 5 o'clock, when my husband or my daughter says, or 6 or 7, when we are normally working after work, when my daughter says, can you help me do my homework? And can we read a book? Or can we play? Or can we watch whatever? I cannot, what I've learned, I cannot be like, I got work to do. Why? Because work is over here as far as my priorities are concerned. They're not in competition with one another. If they're in competition, guess what? You're going to be stressed, and somebody is going to be upset.
What about if your children are grown?
Hold on now, right? That's something different. Your children grown, then your priorities, your priorities. And so, when I realized that shifted my whole entire outlook and quality time with my family. Because no longer, my daughter wasn't in competition with my work on non-work hours, at non-work hours. So I put my stuff down, I turn my phone, can you turn your phone over? And then we play, and she goes to bed, and if there's time, I do my work.
So I have a question for you in regards to communication. So, hello. Oh, okay. In regards to communication with what you just said.
Yes.
So you identified your top 5, and your top 3 included your family.
Yes.
Do they know that?
Yes.
Because I think what can happen is we internalize and we'll say family is important. But if our family doesn't know that we've like memorialized it or we've made it public to them, that hold me to it, because that's what helps, is when you have someone else who is helping you remember what your priorities are.
And not only that, we'll talk about it one bit. You can't pour from an empty cup. You got to show regard for yourself, because it's important. And I want everyone, including those online, to say, I matter.
I matter.
I matter.
I matter.
Because we struggle with even saying, sometimes we have struggled with saying, I matter. We think about, what about? That's when I would challenge you to think about if you have codependency issues.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's what about you? Because guess what? If you don't take care of yourself, they're not going to be taken care of.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You running around on fumes, and when you collapse,
somebody else got
none of them people that you serving cupcakes to and driving around, they're not going to be able to help you. Why? Because they don't have the capacity to help you. Anyway, daughters of Zelophehad. I put these women in here because they realized that they mattered. If you don't know the story, in my holy book, which is the Holy Bible, in Numbers, there is a group of sisters who realized that they had an inheritance, but the laws said that they were not able to get their inheritance because they did not have a kinsman redeemer, i.e. They didn't have a husband, they weren't married, they didn't have any brothers, uncles. There was no one in line to acquire their legacy, their inheritance. And so these women realized that they mattered, and they went to, at the time, the leader, who was Moses, and said, hey, Moses, can you go to God and talk to him? Because we believe this is our inheritance. There's inheritance. We have land, and can you go and talk to God to change the rules, because we have something that should be within our bloodline. However, we can't get it just because we're women. And so Moses went to God and spoke to God, and God changed the rules. Forever and ever, amen. He changed the rules. So he changed the rules for women, y'all. I matter. matter. Can you imagine how intimidating it was in a patriarchal society to go to the leader to advocate for themselves? And so it is important to realize that you matter and that you can advocate to the highest of the highs on your behalf. So self-care. Although women have made amazing professional strides in society, the life domain, specifically self-care, is overlooked in the work-life balance discussion. For the purposes of sustainability, self-care needs to be a critical area of concern for women in the academy, traditional work, remote dispersed work, and entrepreneurial work. So when we think about well-being, mental wellness, it equals soul health. What is our soul? Our mind, our emotions, our mind, intellect, and our body. Soul, yes. Right? Psychological, emotional, and social well-being. And so, I love this picture. This is my last slide. I love this picture. Sometimes being a good friend is as simple as asking and listening. And she's like, "You good?" Right? And the other friend is like, "Well, actually, how many of you have spaces that are not yes spaces? That because of your bond, because of your interaction with them, they can look at you and say, Stephanie, you good? You good today? Although you're made up like you normally are, you there's something about you that
Look as well as the response.
Yes. And tell me your name.
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl, you good?
Mm.
You good?
Thanks for asking.
Right?
Yes.
Tamara, T, you good today? You good? Because there's some days that you're not, and you're gonna have that. Well, and you see how they're holding. She's like, you good? You see, there's gonna be those days. It's like some days, and then there's some days that you're going to ask for your emotional community. Look, I need the girls. And y'all go out and you talk about what we need to talk about. And then you come back and you end up being good. Right? And so, and that you good in our community has so many different,
Yes.
so many different meanings.
Yes.
You good? You good? I'm good. It all depends, right? So let's talk about self-care. And so, we talked about the top 5 priorities. And you can thank you. You can go to the slide if you can. So we talked about the top 5. And if I was computer savvy, I would put this boundary under the top 5. Why? Because when we know, it's back to Cheryl's question. After you know what your top 5 are you telling people what the top 5 are? Are you setting the necessary boundaries to say, when somebody says, Tamara, Stephanie, can you go out tonight? Because we need to talk about so. And it's not a committee day. It's not at the committee day. And the committee is on on the bottom part of the priorities. I can't today. And so we're going to talk about, if the first thing comes to your mind, well, what are they going to think? Then we got other things to work on. Okay? So I can't today, because we know what our top 5 are. And that's not the top 5 for the day, the week, or the month. Because you have that day. The committee day is on the calendar. then that period comes a priority. But if it's not on that calendar for that day, the answer, it's a boundary. No. Another boundary for family online. When you come up with your top 5 and in the specific order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, even work needs to know, I will not be responding to communicate after. No, I didn't. I'm on do not disturb because that's my family time. You see? So there is a hard stop for me at 4 o'clock on certain days of the week because I got to go pick up my daughter. And after I pick up my daughter, I got to go start the dinner. Yes? That has changed because there was a family member, one of my parents had opened her surgery, so she had to go through the process of recovery. And so I am a part-time caretaker, and so I had to take her to dialysis 3 times a week. And so my husband then had to pick up my daughter on the days. And so, that changed. But family was still because she's my family. That's still a priority. You see? But work, we had to do something. We had to do something differently with work. And I communicated regarding work is concerned. Hey, this is what's happening with my family. Thank God I work at a place that respects family. All right, let me keep going. Then there's the health and the wellness. How many of us, what time is it? Ooh, 15 minutes. Good, we at the right place. How many of us, health and wellness, Stephanie talked about health and wellness. How many of us have made an appointment with a nutritionist? It's a benefit. You can make an appointment with a nutritionist to see if you are eating on par. How many of us pay attention to what we eat for the purposes of being, what do you want to say, optimal? How many of us pay attention to the types of supplements, vitamins we get into our body for the purpose of being optimal? It was already discussed. How many of us how many of us have gone for a mental health physical? How many of us have taken part of, all of the various doctors that we should be seeing? GYN, mammogram, breast exam, for the men in the house, prostate exams, heart wellness exams, chiropractor, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. How many of us have, I don't even call it exercise anymore. Now I call it body activity, because we can dance. We can do so many things to move our bodies, because guess what, y'all? I'm getting older. And when I'm approaching the 50s, the joints are just going berserk. Anyway, I digress. So how many of us are paying attention to our mental and intellectual? You coming here, get your mind thinking about things that you didn't think about. Listening to podcasts, getting a therapist to allow you to start paying attention, intellectually, mentally stimulating your mind to pay attention to things that you probably would not have normally paid attention to. The spiritual. How many of us not just attend or go to a place for spiritual upliftment, but how many of us spend quiet time for spiritual upliftment? These are just things. These are self-care things. Self-care is more than just tying your head up in a turban and putting cucumbers on your eyes. Right? It's more than that. Emotional, talked about that. How many of us have communities that validate who we are? Organizational supports. We already talked about sororities, fraternities, community organizations, such as, you have to do the acronym, such as the acronym, the M.
Oh, Maryland Commission on the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture.
Yes, the acronym.
Yes.
Yes, because we need spaces that validate who we are, validate our thinking, validate you coming here and hearing this, you all online hearing this. It's like, there's nothing wrong with me. It is appropriate for me to think about myself. All right, I'm about to cuss. Did y'all know that finances is a part of self-care?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And a
Yes.
hush comes over the crowd. I hear y'all online already going, right? Finances is a part of self-care. And when your finances are out of whack, we are stressed.
Yes.
How many of us have a budget, live by a budget? Even Michael Jordan. Y'all remember when Michael Jordan came on Oprah Winfrey Show? And hey, y'all cut me off. He came on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and he was a billionaire. And he said that, was it his mother or his father that taught him, no matter how much money you have, you always live on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
You always live on a budget. There are financial literacy classes that people can take, that you all can take, that helps you to look at your finances, what your finances should be looking like. What are we spending too much money on? What frivolous things, i.e. paying $5 for a coffee? What things? There's somebody that I work with that she says, by the time I finish working with you, I can find $200. Because it means that we're going to have to stop things. i.e., I'm sorry, like I said, I'm a cuss. Do you all need all those sports channels?
I don't have any.
That was a fight in my house, but we got rid of it.
Right? Does your cable bill really need to be a car note?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nope.
I went there. Even the cameraman is laughing.
That's crazy.
Oh.
But that's reality.
It doesn't. Not when, there's some people you can afford cable. But then, if it's between keeping the lights on and keeping the cable, cut the cable. Get the, what you call them things?
stick.
The fire stick. That's what I mean as far as priorities are concerned. And then you don't do cable for a year. You make extra money doing everything. DoorDash. They ain't giving me no money. Black Dash, whoever Dash. Insta whoever. You make money, and that money will be the money to put your cable back on. But we have to have priority. You don't go... Affirmations. Take one of these affirmations. I am resilient. Another one.
Incredible.
I am incredible.
I'm fearless.
I'm fearless. Samara?
Bold.
I am bold. Affirmations are important because they activate a bi-directional relationship between you and God. My sacred scriptures talk about the fact that life and death are in the power of the tongue. So you can speak life or you can speak death. And affirmation is speaking life. It is creating this, it uses the creative ability, the creative force of God to create your surroundings, your life, and what you want your life to look like. It is decreeing and declaring. And so Dr. Caroline Leaf says, if negative thinking can be wired into the brain, they can be unwired out of the brain through affirmations. So if we have this negative thinking in our minds, like we're not worthy, we're not enough. Remember I went on before and I said, if we are creating boundaries and instead of creating a boundary, we're thinking about what are people going to think, that's a negative message. And that's a negative message that wants to be, there's somewhere in there, somebody wants to be liked. And so you cannot be liked by everyone, especially when you have to put boundaries. Because boundaries says, this is where I begin and this is where you end. And they also create a safe space for us. And so when we think about affirmations, you think about ways that, what is it that you want to see? What is it lacking? And how can you create? And I talk about it in my book, and I go into detail about it in my book with regards to an activity, the 7 ways to create affirmations. And I also do a workshop called activating affirmations, because a lot of times people are doing affirmations wrong. Okay, and so that bi-directional, I am resilient, I am bold, I am strong. These are the things that we say about ourselves several times a day when we need to continue to feel that way or when we don't. And I would challenge you to the affirmations that you said today. I would challenge you to 3 times a day to set an alarm and just say it. I am bold. I am strong. I am resilient. And you'll realize how your schema begins to change. All right, so now's the point. We're just going to do a quick activity. Which self-care domains need your attention? What goal would you like to meet in 1 month? What are 2 to 3 realistic steps you are willing to take? And who can hold you accountable? We're going to go around the room.
Well, I already have one that I'm working on.
Good.
I can share it.
Yes. Can you pass her the mic, please?
So mine was under, I think, social emotional.
Okay.
And the goal that I set for myself was to improve my relationships with women.
Awesome.
And my steps that I'm taking to do it is I'm returning phone calls and I'm making the first phone call. I'm not waiting for the phone calls to come to me. And the third thing was that I am going back and reconnecting with friends that I have not been in communications with.
And who's holding you accountable?
My planner. So I don't have a person, my best girlfriend and I, we kind of set these things together. So she's my accountability person. Mm-hmm. But I need to hold myself accountable for that. So she is, but truly it's me.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
For me, I collect a lot of stuff, and it gets to the point where if I'm not comfortable in my own space at home because there's too much other stuff. So I am making a strong effort to release a whole lot of my precious cargoes.
Awesome.
And I'm giving stuff away, and a lot of folks say, well, you should be selling it. I'm saying, look, I'm giving stuff away because I feel good about being able to do that. And it's also clearing up a space over here that now I can see the color of my carpet and, awesome. This and that.
So what would you like to do in 1 month?
In 1 month, I'm going to go to each closet and I am going
Is that doable for you?
It's doable for me because
Each
I'm
closet.
in each closet. For 1 month, I can
Okay.
because again, I'm in Retirementville, so I schedule
Okay.
whatever else, and I'm in an apartment, so I
Okay.
don't have that many closets.
Okay.
But my closets are full. And so in 1 month, what I am planning to do is to approach each closet and at least take out of the closet things I have not used in 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Awesome. And so you're going to take out 3 or 4 years worth of, and who's going to hold you accountable?
It's interesting. I just reconnected with a cousin of mine that we haven't physically been seen each other for 20 years.
Okay.
But we saw each other Wednesday, and she's having the same goals.
Oh,
So we're going to
awesome.
check on each other.
Awesome. Great. Stephanie?
All right, I'm back to the cleaning mode again. My bathroom had to be completely redone. It started off as a small repairing the shower, and now it is a full-blown completion of a bathroom. When I say completion, I mean from top to bottom. So, whenever you have work like that done, you say, okay, well then let me go on. So aside from the fact that I've got to redo everything, because everything in the bathroom was one color, now it's a whole nother color. So now you know how we are. Our bathrooms have to have a certain way of looking. So my self-care, because I love to be able to take my baths and, be in there with the candles and all that kind of stuff. So my self-care is to make my bathroom back to the way it was, but with a different flair, since I've got
Okay.
different colors in there than I had before. So that's going to be mine. And the only person who can be held accountable is me.
Okay.
Because I want it so that when I want to take that bubble bath that I haven't been able to do, when I want to take that bubble bath with that glass of wine
Yes.
and the candles, I'll be able to do it.
Relaxation.
Yes.
Awesome. Let's give a hand. Any kind of questions? Any questions? Answers? What are you taking away? What is your experience with this opportunity?
This is Cheryl. Whenever I think of self-care, I can tell you one thing that clicked into my head years ago that's started me thinking about myself, and that's when you're on an airplane and they show you how to use the oxygen mask, and they say, put the mask on your face first. So then you can take care of your children, and then I say, or anybody acting like a child. But, and so just hearing that and seeing that for the first time when I was a little young, it stayed with me. And then as I've grown up, it still stays with me. So every once in a while, so I'm always paying attention when I'm on a plane and when they have the instructions, because I'm waiting to hear that part.
Okay. Somebody else? Any takeaways? Q&As?
Well, I'll say this was great. I really appreciate your presentation and the way that you presented it. It helped to solidify some things for me. And like I said, I'm at that place where I need to just constantly remind myself that I am not being selfish. And so, you help to solidify that.
Self-care is not selfish.
I'm at the place where I know that I'm not being selfish and I'm looking out for me.
Awesome.
And so this just kind of said to me, everything that you've been doing in the past year, you were supposed to do.
That's right. So I just want to thank you all so much, and I want to thank the Commission for African American Culture and for African American History and Culture for the opportunity to share this with my community, because this is the reason why I wrote this book, Honoring the Whole You, Everyday Work-Life Management Strategies for Professional Moms and Caregivers, because we need this information. This is how you can contact me. I'm on Sharlene Allen-Milton at gmail.com. I'm on Instagram, Dr. Sharlene Allen, Facebook, Dr. Sharlene Allen-Milton, LCSW-C, and my website is drsharleneallen.com. Thank you so much. And I will be selling books. This book is available on Amazon.com. I will be selling books during the lunch hour today. So thank you so much. For those online, please tell me what you got out of this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad.